I'm tracking our next weather maker. I'll let you know the timing of rain tomorrow and impacts to your travel plans.
Baltimore now enforcing its curfew, but it doesn't look like it's doing much to stop juvenile crime yet. What happened this weekend and the criticism the plan is getting.
I think he negotiated with me in good faith. He kept his word.
Is it everything I wanted? No.
President Joe Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy addressing the debt limit deal they just struck, what's in it, and why some lawmakers are already vowing to vote against it.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. We're coming to the end of the first weekend of enforcement of the curfew for young people in Baltimore City as part of Mayor Brandon Scott's strategy to keep kids engaged and away from danger this summer. So far, we haven't seen much action or participation at the city's outreach centers, but we have seen more examples, sadly, of juvenile crime. The plan getting mixed reviews and plenty of skepticism.
I really have high hopes that it will work.
It's unbelievably poorly thought out. We are still addressing this as if we live in some type of utopia where our children are going home to hot meals, a sober mom, a sober dad, a functioning household.
Well, the mayor first announced curfew enforcement after two teenagers were shot in the middle of a crowd of young people gathered at the Inner Harbor last month. We finally got details of the plan last week, just days before it took effect. Fox 45's Vincent Hill has been following curfew enforcement all weekend long. He joins us live as one of the mayor's first summer events comes to an end. Vincent?
Yeah, Mary, on Wednesday, the mayor said a lot of people would have a lot of questions about the curfew. One main question: will it lead to less juvenile crime? And so far, it's not looking like it.
As the mayor kicked off his Be More This Summer initiative Sunday as part of his citywide curfew, Saturday, Fox 45 pressing him about the first day of his plan that went into effect Friday night.
We didn't have any major incidents with our young people. We know people got the message.
But was the message of the curfew in the connection centers heard by those it was meant for? On the first night, our cameras captured the centers virtually empty. During the hours, Monsi director Shantae Jackson said were prone for violence. Plus, Fox 45 tracking reports of possible juvenile crimes during curfew hours. On Friday night, reports of a carjacking.
Suspects, two number one males wearing all black clothing between the age of 16 to 17.
Then on Saturday,
robbery involving a group of individuals, juvenile males.
Baltimore police confirming these suspects are described as a group of boys. Community activist Kenji Scott weighing in on the curfew's effectiveness thus far.
It shouldn't be called a curfew. It shouldn't be called nothing.
Scott says the connection centers don't focus on the root problem of juvenile violence.
The games they want to play include carrying guns and carjacking and shooting each other. What's the real purpose of the curfew if it's not enforceable, if it's not punitive?
Scott referring to the hands-off approach police are taking to the curfew and transporting juveniles to the connection centers.
So what is the point of the van then?
Law enforcement analyst Melissa Pinkleton saying the plan doesn't have enough teeth.
Those ones who are already doing the big felonious crimes already, carjacking, stabbings, running over officers, trying to shoot at officers, running around with a gun, they're not worried about curfew.
Meanwhile, Baltimore police not saying if those suspects involved in that carjacking were juveniles or if any arrests have been made. For now, we're live in Baltimore. Vincent Hill, Fox 45 News.
Vincent, thank you. 10 young lives have already been lost in Baltimore City this year. This is a look at some of the victims. Others were shot and killed near their schools. Nearly 40 other young people have survived shootings this year. A community activist who has worked with Baltimore City children and families for years says given the amount of juvenile violence we've seen so far this year, the city's summer plan doesn't meet the urgency of the problem.
That shows our young people that they aren't important enough for us to value a tactical plan, a strategic plan under a state of an emergency. This is something in 2013, when the mayor was standing by my side with the 300 Men March movement, we were pushing for city government to do then. So I don't understand now with Brandon Scott being in power, having the authority, why aren't we considering this a state of an emergency?
Well, city council members are also skeptical about the plan, saying they're not sure if it will keep kids off the streets, especially because they can't be forced to go to these outreach centers.
This is not a tool that's going to go against the young folks who are intentionally creating unproductive activity at night. So I mean, I think we just have to accept that and literally move on.
And I want this to work, but I still see these young people not obeying. I don't hear the young people saying, I want to go to the rec. They're not excited about going to the rec centers.
Well, Fox 45's Patrice Sanders spoke with one community leader about his concerns about the plan this morning. She has more on that, as well as what this all could mean for Mayor Scott's re-election efforts.
Memorial Day weekend is here, and so is the mayor's curfew for Baltimore's youth. But many question, will it work? And what impact the plan will have on the mayor's re-election plans. Keeping kids off the streets overnight and away from violence is a central part of Mayor Brandon Scott's summer violence reduction plan. We're now 3 days in, and so far, so good, according to the mayor. But for Giovanni Patterson with the community group Peace, he says we've seen youth acting out already, and the way the city is trying to correct that sends the wrong message.
We're going to give you, basketball games every night. I think we're going about this the wrong way. Instead of rewarding bad behavior, we should be incentivizing good behavior.
He says we need to raise expectations for our youth. And to the point the mayor has also made, get parents involved.
I 100% agree with that, but we also can't be, afraid to provide that structure outside of home. It seems like we're coddling our kids and saying, hey, we don't want them to interact with the police. And interaction with the police is not always a bad thing.
There is a lot riding on what happens this summer, from the safety of kids to the mayor's re-election effort.
If this can be a successful program where kids get involved in stuff, where you see a decrease in crime, where you don't have all the shootings of young kids participating, shooting other young kids, the mayor can hang a star on this and say, look, I put this program together, it was a success, and it can help him in his re-election plans.
But if not, he says the mayor could have problems.
Because there's a lot of people like Sheila Dixon that are talking and thinking about running against Brandon Scott in a very small field. And with some of the problems, she might have success because the last full year she was in office, Baltimore had 240 murders, which sounds high, but today, 240, everyone would say, I'll take that deal now. And she could argue very cleverly. She could say, the last year I left office, it was 240, and the policies I put in place help reduce the murder rate over the next several years.
Patrice Sanders, Fox 45 News.
Well, we want to hear from you. Are you confident in the plan from Mayor Scott to address youth crime this summer? So far, 96% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. And remember, the curfew is in place on weeknights as well. It applies to anyone under 17. For children younger than 14, the curfew is 9 p.m. until 6 a.m. For 15 and 16-year-olds, the curfew starts at 11. And you can find everything you need to know about the curfew on our website, foxbaltimore.com. Well, police are investigating a murder over the weekend. They say a 38-year-old man was shot and killed near Clifton Park just before 7:30 last night along Hartford Road near the Alameda. Today, another man was hurt in a shooting along South Monroe Street in South Baltimore. Police say he is in critical condition. No information on any suspects in either of these shootings. Anybody who may know about either of the shootings is asked to call police. Well, that is just the latest shooting in Baltimore City. On Thursday, 4 people were hurt in a quadruple shooting. On Friday afternoon, 5 people were shot near Lexington Market. Fox 45 News spoke with residents who say they do not feel safe.
5 people shot. That's a tragedy, and I feel like there's nobody really safe out here anymore. Where do you feel safe in Baltimore? In the house.
Could have been us.
You've been another victim.
Yeah, I feel safe home.
Well, there are no suspects in either of those mass shootings. City Council will begin budget hearings this week. The city's final budget is due by June 26. Over the next several days, council members will hear from city agencies about their budgetary needs. Baltimore City has less money at its disposal than it thought. It now has to pay $67 million more than planned for the Blueprint for Maryland's Future, or the Kerwin plan. The mayor plans to pull the money from the city surplus.
It was a gut punch. What we've been discussing with them and what we've heard is a open and willingness to look at how we can look at the formula. It's not what the governor or anyone expected us to be having at this point.
The most high-profile hearing this week, the Department of Public Works. The mayor's budget proposal includes funding for 10 new solid waste crews with the goal of getting people hired and working by January. The budget also requests a nearly 40% increase for upper-level management, some of whom are already bringing home six-figure salaries. The overall waste removal and recycling budget is only requesting a 7% increase, even as the city has been struggling to collect recycling on a weekly basis. Councilman Yitzi Schleifer says that money is being misplaced.
Instead of seeing the DPW executives' salaries ballooning, what I'd like to see is that same 40% increase go to the workers at DPW, the ones who are actually doing the work.
Well, the councilman argues the mayor's $10,000 recruitment and retention bonus is not enough to encourage overworked and underpaid city employees to stay. The councilman also raising alarm bells over the mayor's Clean Core program, which will give $15 million to city nonprofits to clean up neighborhoods, saying that money should be going to DPW itself. Now, the city council will have the chance to add or cut money from the budget this year because of a charter amendment voters approved in 2020. Fox 45 News will follow that process closely. Well, taking a live look at Ocean City on the right side of your screen. It has been a busy holiday weekend on the Eastern Shore. You can see plenty of people still out on the boardwalk enjoying the carnival rides out there. It has been a beautiful few days, but rain could impact your Memorial Day plans. Meteorologist Jasmine Lomax has the latest for us. Jasmine.
Hey, Mary, that's right. We are keeping track of showers that are going to impact the region tomorrow. We're already seeing some of those showers. They will move to the north, and that means that if you're traveling anywhere around the state, the rain could have impacts on your drive. This is all because of a low-pressure system around the Carolinas. That's going to lead to our chance for rain. Coming up, I'll break down the timing of the rain and what to expect for the rest of the week and my full forecast. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. And a live look at the Bay Bridge right now. The Maryland Transportation Authority warning tomorrow, of course, will be busy as people start to come back from the beach. It says the best time to drive home tomorrow is actually before 8 a.m. or enjoy the full day there and come back after 10 p.m. They are telling people to, of course, drive the speed limit and be patient. Scan the QR code on your screen to show us how you're celebrating the holiday weekend, whether it's hanging out at the beach, a backyard barbecue, or just enjoying some time at home. We want to see your pictures and your videos. You can also head to our website, foxbaltimore.com/chime-in, then submit them there. A somber Memorial Day ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery. How visitors are honoring fallen heroes.
Now that a tentative deal has been reached on raising the debt limit, on to the next question. Will it pass? I'm Christine Frizzau with what we're hearing.
Taking a live look at the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C., where a deal on raising the debt limit has been agreed to. President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy reached the deal yesterday. The president addressed the deal today, saying he didn't make any compromise on the debt ceiling.
They said they'd only do it on condition that it have all these cuts in it. I said, I'm not going to do that. You pass the debt ceiling, period. I'll negotiate with you on the cuts. But if you want to try to make it look like I made some compromise on the debt ceiling, I didn't. I made a compromise on the budget.
Well, now the question is, what's in the deal and why are some lawmakers already vowing to vote against it? National correspondent Christine Frizzau has the latest.
It was a deal Democrats didn't want to have to make, but with Republicans in the majority in the House had no choice but to take.
There were no wins for Democrats. There is nothing after the passage of this bill that will be more liberal or more progressive than it is today. It's a remarkable conservative accomplishment.
It stemmed from a long list of conservative demands and resulted in a freeze in non-defense spending, plus the clawing back of $29 billion in unspent COVID aid and $1.9 billion for the IRS to be used to hire more agents, plus new measures to speed up environmental reviews of some energy projects and work requirements for some who receive SNAP or food stamps, though it expands food stamp eligibility for veterans and the homeless.
Is it everything I wanted? No, but we don't control all of it. But it is the biggest rescission in history. It is the biggest cut in Congress has ever voted in that process.
Still, some conservative Republicans are pushing back. Congressman Ralph Norman calling it insanity. Congressman Bob Good tweeting, "No one claiming to be a conservative could justify a yes vote." Now we're hearing many Democrats are breathing a sigh of relief that they didn't lose more in terms of cuts to programs they support. But as to whether they'll actually vote for the deal, that is the next battle expected to play out in the coming days.
I'm tempted to say no, I'm in no vote, because as the speaker said, there is absolutely nothing for the Democrats in these things. And oh, by the way, do I really want to validate a process which at the end of the day is a hostage-taking process?
And it's not just the progressives. Across the ideological spectrum, including problem solvers, by the way, people feel that this is bad policy.
Still, President Biden asking both the House and the Senate to pass the legislation and move on, with leaders now tasked with selling it to get enough votes to be signed into law by June 5th, the day the Treasury Secretary says the government will run out of money. I'm Christine Frizzau reporting.
It was a pretty nice day as the extended weekend continues. We had mostly cloudy skies, but we stayed mostly dry. Unfortunately, the dry pattern comes to an end tomorrow as we get ready for the next weather maker. Current temperatures sit at 72 with mostly cloudy skies. We are actually the high spot around the state at 72. Otherwise, we're mainly seeing the 60s and the 70s. Not too bad for this time of night, but numbers, of course, will fall. We're looking at lows in the 50s and the 60s. Not a bad way to start the day, but unfortunately, we are looking at showers as the day begins. It's all because of this low pressure system that's leading to showers across the region. Some of that rain is going to move north overnight, and that means that late tonight we've got the chance for showers, and the rain continues throughout the day tomorrow. If you are traveling anywhere on Memorial Day, the showers could have impacts on your drive, especially if you're heading south. Then we deal with an unsettled few days after that, still talking the daily chance at least for spotty showers. However, by June, we're looking at a dry start and also a hot start to the month and the start of meteorological summer. Overnight, we'll have a few showers mainly to the south, but closer to daybreak, those showers make their way toward the Baltimore area. We start with that rain and it continues off and on into the afternoon, throughout the evening, and then into the night. There could be moments of heavy rain at times, and this leads us into Tuesday morning. We start with very isolated showers, and into the afternoon, still, there's that chance for spotty showers if you're driving anywhere. That could have impacts on your drive once again. Heading into Wednesday, we've got another round of spotty showers before we finally dry out on Thursday and Friday. We'll stay mostly dry on Saturday and Sunday. You'll notice a big warm up as we head into the weekend. Temperatures tonight drop to 59 with late showers mainly after midnight. Then tomorrow for Memorial Day, we start around 67 at 8 a.m. and temperatures quickly rise to the mid to upper 70s. We'll stay slightly below average, but if you have plans to be outside, you may want the umbrellas as we deal with scattered showers throughout the afternoon and into the evening. 68 around 8 p.m. And then as we head into the work week, temperatures around 73 on Tuesday, mid-70s on Wednesday, and then it gets hot for June. 87 Thursday, 90s for the first time on Friday, and then the 80s for the rest of the weekend. Mary?
Jasmine, thank you. Well, hundreds lined up at the Arlington National Cemetery today to pay respects to the nation's fallen heroes. One by one, visitors walked across the plaza and placed flowers before the tomb of the unknown soldier. Visitors also placed flowers at the more than 300,000 headstones that make up the cemetery there. The ceremony marks the second annual Flowers of Remembrance Day, which pays homage to the first official National Decoration Day, now known as Memorial Day. That ceremony took place in 1868 to honor those who died in the Civil War. Well, a tribute to the troops here in our area as well. Dale sent us this picture of the giant American flag he hung on his house in honor of Memorial Day. Well, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hosting veterans for the Memorial Day weekend, how he welcomed them days after he announced his run for president. A nationwide staffing shortage could put a damper on your summer plans. Still ahead, the impact a lifeguard shortage is having on beaches and pools. Well, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis hosts his veterans for the Memorial Day weekend in Tallahassee today, just days after he announced he is running for president. Tanner Stewart with our Sinclair sister station in Florida reports.
At the end of the day, you can have the best declaration that's ever been written, you can have the best constitution that's ever been written, but unless you have people throughout our history that are willing to put on a uniform, risk their lives, and in some cases give the last full measure of devotion, service to this country, then a lot of those principles aren't going to amount to very much.
Governor Ron DeSantis honoring a crowd of veterans Sunday in Tallahassee, and in turn, veterans showing support for the now presidential candidate.
Freedom's fragile. Freedom is not something that can go on autopilot. It requires each generation to fight and to fight for it, and nobody has done that more than the veterans who've given the last full measure of devotion and service to this country.
Just last week, not even a week ago, we had a big press conference where the governor signed 6 veterans bills.
Florida District 1 representative and U.S. Army veteran Michelle Salzman touting the governor's legislative support for veterans and telling me she expects DeSantis' presidential platform to emulate his Florida policy on a wider scale.
You know, we'll expand that into a more federal conversation for the border crisis. Certainly it wouldn't just be things at our state, but potentially, you know, securing the border in whatever way that he sees fit.
Salzman says Republican officials across the Florida Panhandle stand in solidarity supporting the governor's bid for the White House in 2024.
I think it's important that we're all on the same page no matter what we're doing, you know, and in reference to supporting the governor for the presidential primary, it certainly just makes sense. He knows who we are. He was there for us during our hard times, during COVID, during hurricanes. We know that he'll show up when we need him to. I mean, he just has great policy and a good relationship, and it just makes sense for folks in the Panhandle to support somebody that's been there for us.
U.S. Army veteran and Jefferson County native Al Cooksey says he supports Governor DeSantis' presidential run, but wants to see an all-out push ahead of the primaries on a number of issues.
Immigration would be one of them. That's definitely one of the things I think we got to get on. And the budget, the dadgum budget is crazy. I mean, we way overspend every time, and we promise to not overspend, and we keep doing it. I think we should speed it up, and let's get it done. I mean, I'm tired of waiting around.
A busy week ahead now for Governor DeSantis, planning to make stops in New Hampshire, Iowa, and South Carolina, all on the campaign trail. In Tallahassee, I'm Tanner Stewart reporting.
As a record number of migrants cross the southern border, some states are taking action. How they're demanding change in tonight's full measure report. The crisis at America's southern border has reached new records of migrants crossing into the U.S. Some states are taking action to fill what they claim is inaction on the part of the federal government. Full measure Cheryl Atkinson reports from Eagle Pass, Texas.
On our trip to Eagle Pass, Texas, it's first light. Border authorities know exactly what time and where people will gather on the Mexican side of the Rio Grande to walk or swim across to the U.S. The river is high and fast-moving after lots of rain. U.S. rescue boats pick up those who look like they might not make it. Others make it to shore and walk along the fence line into U.S. custody. There are as many as 2,000 illegal border crossers processed each day now in Eagle Pass, and a similar number not caught. It's clear they're fighting a war without help they need from the federal government, and they say because of the federal government.
That is very dangerous.
Sergeant Juan Maldonado is with Texas Highway Patrol.
The reason that we're out here to secure Texas is because the federal government has failed to provide the federal agents here the resources and the policies to apprehend the undocumented aliens.
Texas is also spending more than $1 billion on barriers for state and private property, building more than 100 miles so far, including this fence on Jim Hobbs's ranch. Hobbs says as many as 1,400 illegal border crossers have been caught on his land in a single day. Do they climb over the fence?
No, they let them through.
Border Patrol lets them through?
Yeah, if there's like right now, they still got places where they haven't finished the fence, and they got gates. They let them through.
What do you attribute that to?
Mr. Biden. They're just letting them in.
We've long asked President Biden and his representatives for interviews, but they've declined. The administration is on record insisting the border is under control, there's no crisis, and they're just cleaning up from Trump's policies.
We are cleaning up the mess that the prior administration made. We are trying to save lives. This is what the prior administration left behind that we are now cleaning up.
A recent NPR poll found that more than half of Americans, 53%, say the U.S. is experiencing an invasion at the southern border. For Full Measure, I'm Cheryl Atkinson.
And you can watch Full Measure Sundays on Fox 45 at 10 a.m. Well, the O's avoid a series sweep. Memorial Day weekend marks the official start of the summer swimming season, but an ongoing shortage of lifeguards is keeping more than 100,000 pools across the country closed or having limited hours already. That's according to the American Lifeguard Association, which says the shortage sets a dangerous risk for families over the summer. Several cities and states are launching incentive programs in hopes of finding new recruits, like in Philadelphia, where Temple University students can get college credit for lifeguarding, or in Austin, Texas, which simply increased their wages. Well, that's all for the news at 10. I'm Mary Bubala. Thank you so much for watching. Morgan Atsid and Rocco DeSangro join us now with Sports Unlimited. Morgan and Rocco.
Thanks, Mary. Come tonight on Sports Unlimited. The Orioles ditch the City Connect uniforms, and looky, back in the win column.
Morgan, that's big. Big dub for the O's as they avoid a Texas sweep. Birdland can thank Austin Hayes in the mountain for that one.
Ravens kicker Justin Tucker is all of Birdland tonight as the Orioles do something they've done all season: avoid the sweep.
Maryland baseball with its sights set on history. Terps taking on Iowa on Championship Sunday in the Big Ten tourney. The Big Ten regular season champs add to their already padded resume.
A setback in the recovery and return for Orioles starter John Means. Why Means can say he'll be pitching, though, for the Birds confidently this season. Sports Unlimited starts after this.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome into Sports Unlimited. She's Morgan Adsit. I'm Rocco DeSangro. The Birds are back in the win column. It's about time.
And according to Birdland on social media, that W is because of one thing and one thing only. The O's look in the finale against the Rangers.